Now that the House has released its impeachment witch hunt resolution, it's time for the Senate to step up and guarantee due process. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be talking about the House of Representatives and its new resolution to basically formally begin the inquiry into the impeachment of President Donald Trump. The resolution is, quote, directing certain committees to continue their ongoing investigations as part of the existing House of Representatives inquiry into whether sufficient grounds exist for the House of Representatives to exercise its constitutional power to impeach Donald John Trump, President of the United States, and for other purposes. So this is a laying out the process. It lays out the ground rules for calling witnesses to question those witnesses, what the rules are for the minority, in this case, House Republicans. And if the White House and the Senate believe that these fall short of what would be required for due process and to adequately provide for the defense of the president, there are checks and balances in place. The Senate can take its own initiative. They can hold their own hearings. They can call their own witnesses to make up for whatever the House is failing to do. And I think that address the allegations that the president is being confronted with on the substance. Andrew McCarthy at the National Review, he's a former U.S. attorney, and I think he's really smart on this. And he's saying that the White House needs an impeachment strategy, and he lays out that, just complaining about the process is all well and good. Now that we know what the process is, though, I'm saying that we need to, and the president needs to, and Senate Republicans, they need to get their ducks in a row and figure out what they're going to do from going forward, because we know what the House is going to do. And I'll lay out for you some of the ground rules that we're looking at here. What the House looks like it's going to shut down any and all calls for Republicans for witnesses that might provide exculpatory information on behalf of the president. The resolution provides that the ranking Republican member of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees can seek subpoenas, but that if they are declined by the chair, then the ranking member shall have the right to refer the committee for decision the question whether such authority shall so be exercised, and the chair shall convene the committee promptly to render that decision. So in short, the Democratic majority on these House committees can reject any calls for Republican witnesses. And frankly, that's not much different than what happened during the Bill Clinton impeachment inquiry resolution. Basically, the only difference is that back then, the chairman and the ranking member together could call witnesses if they both agreed. And if there was a disagreement, it would go to the House committee, in which that case the majority would decide. So even in both cases, the House majority on those committees, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, can reject the call of minority witnesses. And so with one distinction insofar as the chair doesn't have to go through that formality. He can, Adam Schiff, and can call whatever witnesses he wants, and it doesn't have to go to a vote if the ranking member, in this case Devin Nunes, happens to disagree. Now, leaving that aside, it's also unclear if the transcripts of the previously interviewed witnesses who have already appeared behind these closed-door hearings and the recordings, if there are recordings, will be turned over and made public. Are we going to ever see what those questions were asked behind closed doors? Now, the resolution does call for say that Adam Schiff is authorized to transfer records or materials related to the inquiry. But it's not a requirement, and he only needs to consult with the ranking member. So the minority really has no say in how that's going to play out, and whether the recordings or transcripts of the previously interviewed people are ever going to be turned over. The White House, for its part, has issued a statement blasting this process. It says that, quote, the resolution put forward by Speaker Pelosi confirms that House Democrats' impeachment has been an illegitimate sham from the start, as it lacked any proper authorization by a House vote. If it continues this scam by allowing Chairman Schiff, who repeatedly lies to the American people, to hold a new round of hearings, still without any due process for the president. The White House is barred from participating at all until after Chairman Schiff conducts 2 rounds of one-sided hearings to generate a biased report for the Judiciary Committee. Even then, the White House's rights remain undefined, unclear, and uncertain because those rules have yet to be written. And that's speaking on what the rules for having the president's counsel present at the hearings will be. This resolution does nothing to change the fundamental fact that House Democrats refuse to provide basic due process rights to the administration. Now, if that's the case, it's up to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senate Republican committee chairs to step forward and start holding hearings of their own. They can call their own witness. They can ask their own questions. If they feel that something is insufficient on the House side, they can make up for it by having public hearings under subpoena for individuals who are witnesses to testify under oath, and then everyone can see. And then maybe we'll get the other side of the story. We'll get to hear some of the exculpatory information that Republicans are hoping to put out into the public sphere on behalf of President Trump. I think that's legitimate. And they don't have to wait for the House to impeach President Trump to do this. They can do it right now. They can start holding hearings right now, and they should do that. I don't see any reason to delay and wait for the House to set up a narrative on impeachment with one-sided hearings that maybe lack due process. If they believe it lacks due process, they can start to make up for it. The Senate is they have a role to play here. Now, after the House votes to impeach, if that's the direction that they go in, Senate rules of the Senate on impeachment states Rule 6. Quote, the Senate shall have power to compel the attendance of witnesses, to enforce obedience of its orders, mandates, writs, precepts, and judgments, to preserve order, and to punish in a summary way contempts of and disobedience to its authority, orders, mandates, writs, precepts, or judgments, and to make all lawful orders, rules, and regulations which it may deem essential or conducive to the ends of justice. So the Senate, even if you at the trial, they'll be able to call their own witnesses, and they should do that too. President of Americans for Limited Government, Rick Manning, he's noting the fact that the Senate could actually defund the impeachment witch hunt if they feel that the House is not providing sufficient due process. He said, quote, the Senate should reject all attempts to fund the legislative branch in the upcoming omnibus appropriations bill until the House of Representatives engages in due process with full participation by the minority in their impeachment witch hunt. So the Senate can deny funds. They can say, wait a second, this is not fair. You need to modify your rules for the impeachment inquiry. And so that's a tool in their toolbox. They can do that. And I'll leave you with the close here. I think that the Senate could be doing more if they want to participate in this process. They have full power to call witnesses. You don't need to even have an impeachment. They can conduct oversight here. And again, that's what I think they should do. And here's the close. If the Senate and the House feel that due process and minority rights are not being fully followed, there are a bevy of opportunities for Senate Republicans to do something about it. They don't have to wait for a trial. They can hold their own hearings, call their own witnesses, and ask their own questions, and block funding if it comes to that, and start addressing the allegations against President Trump on their merits. They are not powerless. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.